Hello, and welcome to another Silver Screen Filmmakers Club workshop. We are glad you are joining us today. The information provided to you today is brought to you by the Stage Incubator, along with our sponsor, the Indiana Arts Commission. This is also brought to you in partnership with the Center for Urban and Regional Excellence at Indiana University Northwest and Folk Art, the Volunteers Office for Community Accessibility Resources and Training. All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Silver Screen Filmmakers Club in partnership with the Indiana Arts Commission. Are you excited about this week's lesson? Well, I am. So let's go on and jump right in. This week's lesson it is in Module 2, and this is all about the principles of effective layout and composition. What do we mean when we talk about effective layout and composition? This is dealing with how your poster will be essentially laid out or formatted on that canvas, that document, and the composition of it to make sure that the elements are balanced, that the fonts are readable, and that things are well aligned. So this is an important part because we don't want an overcrowded poster. We don't want a poster where it doesn't effectively convey the information we're trying to convey. And we don't want a poster that has a poor disposition, and it's just not attractive. We don't want that, right? All right, so let's go on and jump right in to module 2. Now, just briefly, for those that don't know or you're new here, again, my name is Gretchen Sip. I am one of the facilitators. I am the facilitator for the Canva portion. My co-facilitator is Jessica Renslow, and she will be taking over the film part of the course. So I have over 15 years of training experience, and I have a specialty in graphic design and business development. So I am excited to bring to you the knowledge that I have regarding how to actually successfully lay out and compose your poster. All right, so week 2 agenda, pretty simple. We're going to go through the introduction to layout and composition. Then we will cover the principles of layout and composition. And then we will have a separate video that will be right underneath this video where we do a demonstration of what our exercise is. And our exercise is all about layout and composition today. And then, of course, you have the exercise itself that is creating a poster exercise. You can watch this video as many times as you want. This is an on-demand video. This is our lesson for this week. So you can watch this as many times as you want. And then, like I said, there will be a demonstration video of the actual exercise to walk you through step by step. I also have the step-by-step instructions inside of the assignment. So you're going to want to pay attention to those things so that you can be able to do the assignment. The first time we let you sort of have free reign and pick what designs you want. But in this exercise, it's going to be specific that you follow directions. We have specific directions in there, and you have to follow those directions in order to create the poster. All right. So let's jump in. What is our lesson all about today? It is, of course, our introduction. We're going to do a brief overview really quickly, and then we're going to jump into the principles of layout and composition, and then lastly, using Canva to create a poster layout. All right. So, understanding layout. All right. So, layout is all about how we essentially compose our poster. And it is so important to make sure that we use key principles of graphic design to be able to really create a great looking poster. that people can easily follow and that it is easily able to be understood. All right. So, understanding layout, that is what we're going to talk about today, and just some key things regarding that. So, what is layout? Layout is the arrangement of visual elements on a page. It's about how text and images and other elements are positioned and organized. If you look here on this slide, we have our layout. We have a header at the top, and then we have a subheader right underneath that, and then we have an image. So you should be reading from top down, but also from left to right. I have on the left hand side what we're going to be talking about as far as layout and composition. And then on the right hand side, I have our actual content. So that's all about layout. And then we have composition. Now, composition, on the other hand, is the overall placement and organization of these elements to create a cohesive and visually appealing design. So you have the arrangement of visual elements, and then you have the overall placement of the elements to create a cohesive design. So, what's the importance? Well, layout and composition are crucial in graphic design because they enhance the visual appeal of your work. A well composed design guides the viewer's attention and improves readability and usability. It also helps create a professional look that can make a significant difference in how your work is perceived. So it guides the viewer's attention, it improves readability, and it creates a professional look. I have an example here. I have two posters. One is a party poster, and one, is a little like professional sort of business poster. Now, if you look at these, just look at them and tell me, think about what things they invoke. Now, yes, the party poster is supposed to be more fun, but look at all of those different fonts. Look at all of those different images and, photos that have been cut out. And you got a bottle here, and you got, the price here, but you got the date here, and all of those different things. It doesn't really help to guide your eye along. You have to work to figure out the information. While on the other side, you have a professional flyer, it's a business flyer. And it, talks about the world's best idea for business. And then it goes into the about us, and it goes into the who chooses us and key points. So it guides your eye top to bottom and left to right. It looks professional, doesn't it? So there are several key principles that guide effective layout and composition in graphic design. These principles include balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, proportion, repetition, and unity. So these are more than what we talked about last week. Last week we talked about just four, but this time we're going into each principle a little bit deeper, and each principle we're going to show how they play a vital role in creating visually and engaging and cohesive designs. All right, so let's jump right in. Balance. Now, balance refers to the even distribution of elements in a design. Think about a scale. I have a scale here, and I have it for a reason. Balance. You need to have things balanced. Now, it ensures that no single part of the design overpowers the other. Now, there are two main types of balance: symmetrical and asymmetrical. Now, symmetrical balance involves mirroring elements on either side of a central axis and creating a formal and organized look. So you have sort of even mirroring images, or even mirroring weights. We talked about visual weights, mirroring weights on either side of your central axis so that it looks formal and it looks organized. Now, asymmetrical balance uses different elements of varying weights to create a dynamic and interesting composition. So, symmetrical is more organized, more formal, even, you can sort of, it's a flow to it, but it's easy. Asymmetrical is not bad, it just is utilizing different elements of varying weights to create a dynamic and interesting composition. Let me show you an example what I mean. So we have two posters here. Now, one I chose was a movie film poster, 127 hours. Now, this would be an example of a symmetrical, where you have on either side is this rock formation, is this, sort of entrance into, a cave, for lack of better terms. You have text on the top, text on the bottom. Where does your eye first go? It goes central, it goes right in the middle. And the first thing you pick up is that 127 hours besides the person hanging on there. So it guides you into what the title of the movie is. That's what symmetrical balance is. Now, asymmetrical, this is an example of asymmetrical. Varying weights, we have two wine glasses. We have varying colors here. Now, these glasses are not the same, but because of how they're laid out on the composition of the poster, it looks very balanced. It looks contrasting, but it looks very balanced. All right. So that's an example of balance in graphic design. Now let's jump into um, our next principle here, and that's contrast. Let's do this. All right. So contrast is about highlighting the differences between elements in a design. Now, this can involve color, size, shape, or texture. An effective use of contrast enhances visual interest and readability. High contrast designs draw attention to key elements and make the design more engaging, while low contrast designs can appear flat and sort of uninteresting. So you can have contrast in having a big size font and a low size font. That's contrast. You can have contrast when it comes to having various colors that contrast on a screen or shapes. We do that even with the slide, from our squares to our rectangles to our triangles. We have that contrast. Now let's look at a few examples of that. So I'm using one color. This Madman poster. It's a high contrast. It's a color pop. So on either side you have black, white, red, but your font is white or your text is white, your background is black, and the lady in the front is dressed in red. And then on the men's side, the background is white, the text is red, and the man is in black. You see that high contrast, it grabs your eye. It grabs your eye. So there are different types of contrast, and I have this image here, and this will be available to you also inside of the module for module 2. The types of contrast is color contrast. If you look closely, you'll see it could be, a purple on a green or a white on a red, those contrasting colors. Or it could be a gray background and a red pop of color. You have size contrast where you have big circles around a small circle, or a lot of small circles around a big circle. You can have shape contrast and you can have type contrast, and we talked about that. All right, so there are various types of contrast to make your poster more interesting and more vibrant to the eye. Next, let's talk about emphasis. Now, emphasis involves making a particular element stand out in your design. Now, this can be achieved through size, through color, and through placement. Now, the purpose of emphasis is to draw the viewer's attention to the most important part of the design. By strategically emphasizing certain elements, you can guide the viewer's focus and communicate more of your message more effectively. So it's about making elements stand out and then creating a focal point. As you see here in this brief example, you have this is a brief guide to emphasis image, and you have all of these chess pieces, but then you have this dark piece that stands above it all. That's where I want is sort of where your eye goes first. That's what emphasis does. It guides the viewer's eye. Let's look at a few more examples of that. So you have focus emphasis and you have direction emphasis. In this Prius ad, we have a Prius ad here. Your focus probably goes to the car because that's one of the largest elements of this poster. Now, if you start at the top, it goes go green, then go Prius. We want you to know it's a Prius. And then here's the car. You have the text around it, but that focus is the car. Next, direction of emphasis, where we guide you and where we want you to look. So they have their company name PSMG on the left hand side, but it's sort of grayed out. So it sort of guides you into looking, number one, into the text that's on the right hand side that has a color change. You got the word really in white, and then getting to know your clients in a different color. That, grabs your eye. And then you have a big do not disturb. So it guides your eye to where it wants you to go in the actual poster design. All right, so let's jump into the next movement. Now, movement in design refers to guiding the viewer's eye through the composition in a deliberate way. This can be achieved using lines, shapes, and positioning of elements to create a visual flow. Effective use of movement ensures that the viewer's attention is directed to the most important parts of the design in a logical sequence. And I chose a piece of artwork for this because I felt like this was what the artist was trying to do. When you look at this piece of artwork, it shows waves, right? So we know waves move. In order for them to even be waves, it is a form of movement. But do you see how he essentially draws your eye to the left hand side, but you know or you even feel that the image is moving to the right because of the lines and the curves and the shapes that are tied into this image. That is what movement is. So it's not necessarily that the image is moving itself, it is that it's invoking the feeling and the idea of movement. Let's look at a few more examples. And I know this may be a little, different, but okay, think about directional movement. Here I have an image where we have two people, two pencil people, for lack of a better term, two pencil people, and they're looking to the right. And so, even in the way that they're directionally placed, it makes our eyes feel like they should move to the right. But then you have underneath that a picture or a sketch of a mother duck and her little ducklets, the little duckies following her, and they're facing the left. So now you feel like you should look to the left. That's directional movement. You see that? Now, we have another poster here. Now, this is about reading movement. So, this poster, it's pretty fancy, like a better term, it's pretty fancy. But we have a couple things on here. We have text, and then we have an image of a guitar. Looks like an octopus is going up the guitar. And we have a few little design elements, a few little filigrees and different pieces of that nature. When you look at this, where do you start to read? Of course, at the top. Part of that is because you have this very big heading that says string band. and then underneath it, fever. But then look how the font and the words flow. You got one grass, two grass, the good, the bad, the creek. Now, how did I know how to read that? Part of it is because they use different shapes and different font sizes and colors to guide my eye on what to read and when to read it. I could have said, string band fever, one to the grass, grass, good, bad, the creek. That doesn't make sense. When I read it, because of how it was designed, I was able to read it in the flow that it was meant. And that's because they use movement in the elements they put in the font. Isn't that really cool? All right. So now let's go into another. We're going to talk about proportion. Now, proportion refers to the relationship between the sizes of different elements in a design. Maintaining correct proportion creates harmony and balance, making the design more aesthetically pleasing. Elements that are out of proportion can disrupt the flow and coherence of the design. So, proportion is all about the relationship between the sizes of the elements, and it helps to create that harmony. And in this image, we have essentially this, it looks like a person, looks like a lady, and she's small in comparison to the movement of this great sort of tunnel spiral effect. Do you see how that flows into it? And it's not disruptive. It flows together and this is aesthetically pleasing. Let's look at a few examples, some that maybe you sort of can figure out. So let's look at logo proportion. You see this a lot in different logos where they have their word of the company, the name of the company, and then they have an image. Now, with Jaguar, you have the word Jaguar, and on top of it, you have an actual image of a jaguar. Now, it looks like that image is the length of the actual word. But now look at Puma. Puma, number one, they use a different font, but the word is pretty tall itself. It's pretty tall, and then it looks like the Puma's just jumping over the A. See how it's proportion, but it's balanced. It doesn't look off. It's balanced because they use different proportions to frame each other. The other image we have here is, proportion and design. You have this giant flamingo, behind this bathtub. And when you look in the background of it, it's other flamingos. But this one, you get the feeling of it being closer than the others. When in actuality, what they did in the designs, they just made it bigger and made the other one smaller so they looked like they were off in the distance. Proportion. Proportion. All right. So now let's talk about repetition. Repeating elements in your design helps to create consistency. Even if you notice as I go through the slides, I'm repeating the title bar, this blue bar, these two lines. You're getting used to seeing it. It creates consistency and it reinforces the visual themes. I made sure that I chose a color palette that essentially reflected the stage colors. Repetition, it involves using the same or similar elements throughout your design to create consistency and unity. Now, this technique reinforces visual themes and makes the design feel cohesive. When you repeat colors, you repeat shapes, you repeat patterns, it helps to tie the different parts of the design together. I created a different, sort of design and layout for the title slide of each of these lessons, but when I'm going to actually talk about content because those slides have the same elements. Even if it's different content, even if it's different images, they're all related. And it gives a form of cohesiveness and consistency. So let's look at a few examples. Now you can have pattern repetition. That is where you're, as you see in this image, you have these, beach, these sort of beach towel chairs, and you have some that are black, and then you have some that are striped. And the way they're laid out is in a pattern. Sort of the same with the next image. You have these images that are repeated. They're fruits, they're various fruits. So you see the apples, and you see the other fruit there. Looks like, I don't know if it's a sour sop or if it's orange. I have no idea. But this was a good example to me of repetition in images and how you can utilize the same colors. As you see, the apple, the background is yellow, while I want to say that's a sour sop, that the background is orange. You see how that, and it's so, it's so much information that goes into your eye, and your eye is relaying that information to your brain. And so even if you only see a piece of this image, you know your brain has automatically calculated, oh, this is a pattern. What is the pattern here? And it tries to identify it. That's what repetition does, and it helps to create consistency. All right, let's go into the next one. Unity. Now, unity refers to the overall cohesiveness of the design, and it ensures that all the elements work together harmoniously. It is achieved through consistency and harmony. Achieving unity involves maintaining consistency in style, colors, fonts, and the overall theme. A design with strong unity looks well organized and aesthetically pleasing, making it more effective in the conveying of the intended message. In this image here, you see the trees, you know that they are brown and the green, and then you have this background, and it's essentially using the same colors of pinks and blues and whites and greens and browns all in the background, and it's created this sort of consistent, aesthetically pleasing look. Let's look at two examples. You have cohesive unity. This poster on the left is tying in colors, yellow and pink, through this woman and through her pen. And it's think, think, think. Background's gray, but you have the color pop. But it's bringing in that pink and that yellow. Those are various triangles put together to form a pattern. And while those colors stand out, they work together and are tying in the overall design. Unity of design. Over on the right, these are various shapes, but utilizing the same color palette. So various shapes using the same color palette of a teal and a purple and a blue on a white background. You see that? So you chose colors. You can use various shapes as long as they fall in those colors. So we covered a number of principles here. In conclusion, understanding and applying the principles of layout and composition is essential in graphic design. These principles help create visually appealing and cohesive and effective designs. So, by focusing on balance, focusing on contrast, focusing on emphasis, movement, how does it flow, proportion, repetition, and unity, you can enhance your design skills and you can produce professional quality work. It's key in design. I promise you it wasn't going to take that long. All right, so now, just a little bit of things to think about. Can you explain the importance of layout in poster design? Why is it important? Number one, it helps with the readability. Part of why we're doing what we're doing is to convey an image or convey a message. So it's all about readability. Number one. Number two, we want to make sure that things are consistent And we want to make sure that things are done in proportion so that it's visually appealing. Who wants to look at an ugly flyer or ugly poster? Nobody. I know I don't. So think about what is the importance of layout in poster design and begin thinking about how you can incorporate these principles into your own design projects outside of this course, but also within this course. What I want you to think about is how you're going to apply those same principles as you create your movie poster for your film. All right, so like I said, we have another video that will be after this video where we will walk through the steps of how to create a poster. And you will have specific instructions that you will follow so that we know you can do certain things within Canva. That exercise will be, you'll be able to watch the video, and then you'll actually do the lesson activity, which is creating a poster. The steps you follow, of course, to sign in is go into your Moodle, enter your username and password, navigate to course, click on the course name, and then you're going to go to the module 2. And under module 2, you will see the activity, the exercise for this week. If you have any questions, and I know you may have questions, but watch the demonstration first. But if you have any questions, feel free to email us. We will be doing office hours next Friday. So not this Friday, next Friday we will be doing office hours, and you could bring those questions to us. But if you need them answered more quickly, please email us and let us know. So we want to thank you for attending. What I need you to do after this video is watch the Applied Designs principles regarding layout and composition to create a simple poster demo video. That is the video after this, and then you'll log into Moodle to upload your exercise. Thank you again for attending, and this was the lesson from Module 2. Well, I hope you learned a lot. Thank you for joining the Stage Incubator and viewing a part of our digital literacy series. We really appreciate you being here, and thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at thestageincubator@gmail.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Again, we want to thank our sponsors and our partners, the Indiana Arts Commission, the Center for Urban and Regional Excellence, and VOCART, the Volunteers Office for Community Accessibility, Resource, and Training. We hope to see you at our next session, and stay tuned for more things to come.